Welcome back, everyone, to another deep dive. And today we're going to be taking a look at plant guilds.
Plant guilds?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So this is something that, I think it's pretty fascinating to a lot of gardeners, the idea that you can create these sort of like mini ecosystems in your own backyard.
Absolutely.
And we're going to be looking at plant gilding and permaculture and agroecology.
Great source.
Yeah, it's a really fascinating kind of overview of how to do this.
Yeah, and what I think is so interesting about it is like they're designed to solve problems.
Okay.
So, if you're facing challenges like poor soil or pests or even water management issues, a well-planned guild can actually really help you tackle those.
So it's like you're bringing in like a whole team of specialists
exactly
to solve your problem.
Yeah, like plant superheroes.
Okay, so how do we get started?
Well, first you need to gather some intel.
Okay.
Your site conditions, things like sunlight exposure, water availability, and soil type.
Right, because like I can't just put a shade-loving plant exactly
in full sun and expect it to be happy.
Exactly, it's not going to work.
So once we've kind of done that assessment of where we are, what's next?
Well, then you choose an anchor plant.
Okay.
This is like the star player of your guild.
Yeah.
Typically a larger, longer-lived plant.
Okay, so I'm thinking of juicy peaches, so I'm going to start with a peach tree.
Perfect example.
Okay.
So instead of just planting that peach tree by itself, though, we're going to surround it.
Oh, yeah?
With this carefully chosen entourage of companions.
Like a support system.
Exactly, like a plant support system.
Yeah, how do we choose who gets to be in the support system?
Well, that's where this concept of complementarity comes in.
Okay.
We want to choose plants that you have different strengths and needs that actually complement each other.
So they work together?
They work together.
Okay.
So, for example, you might pair a deep-rooted plant that draws up nutrients from the subsoil with a shallow-rooted plant that can benefit from those nutrients.
Oh, so it's like they're sharing.
They're sharing, exactly. It's a beautiful system. So what are some other things that we need to think about when we're choosing these companion plants?
Well, we also want to think about this rule of three.
The rule of three.
Yeah, which suggests that each plant in our guild should ideally serve at least 3 functions.
Okay.
It could be a nitrogen fixer, a pest repellent, a dynamic accumulator, or even a delicious edible.
Okay, hold on. Dynamic accumulator. What's that?
So think of it like this. Certain plants like comfrey have deep roots that act like mineral miners, bringing up nutrients from the depths of the soil.
Wow.
And those nutrients then become available to the shallower rooted plants in the guild.
That's amazing.
It is pretty amazing.
So they're not just supporting themselves, supporting everybody.
It's a community effort.
So with all of these different roles that a plant can play, how do we figure out who should be in our guild?
Well, research and a little bit of experimentation. It's helpful to familiarize yourself with the specific needs and benefits of different plants. Some plants are known for their pest-repelling properties, while others attract beneficial insects.
Right.
Some plants thrive in the shade, while others need full sun.
Right.
By understanding these characteristics, you can start to create combinations that will work well together in your space.
So it really is kind of like matchmaking.
It is a little bit like plant matchmaking.
But for your garden.
For your garden, exactly.
I love that.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to experiment a little bit. See what works best in your particular garden.
That's great advice.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
Gardens are all about experimentation.
Yeah, I think this has been a great overview of kind of how we get started thinking about building a plant guild.
Absolutely. The planning stages are crucial.
Yeah, for sure. So we've got the right spot. We've thought about who are going to be our players on the team.
Yeah, the dream team.
And now we need to get into the nitty-gritty of how we actually build this thing.
Exactly. How do we put it all together?
So we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about putting this plan into action.
Sounds good.
All right. See you in a bit. All right, so we're back, and we are ready to start putting this plant guild together.
Let's do it.
So we've got the team picked out.
Yeah.
But I imagine it's more than just like throwing them all into bed together, right?
Right. It's not quite that simple.
So what else do we need to think about?
Well, we need to think about how these plants are going to interact with each other.
Okay.
Both in space and in time.
In space and time. Okay.
Yeah.
Tell me more about that.
So spatial interactions refer to how plants share their physical space.
Okay.
We need to think about the mature size and shape of each plant and how they'll fit together in the guild.
Right, because if I've got like a giant sunflower,
exactly,
that's going to shade out everything else.
You don't want to put a little tiny lettuce plant underneath a giant sunflower.
Yeah, that lettuce is not going to be happy.
No, not at all.
So it's like Tetris.
It's a little bit like Tetris, yeah. You want to make sure everything fits together nicely.
Okay, and then what about the time part?
So temporal interactions, that refers to how plants' growth cycles interact over time.
Okay, so like when they sprout, when they flower,
Exactly.
when they produce food.
Exactly. Some plants are fast-growing and might only be in the guild for a short period,
Okay.
while others are slow-growing and will be there for the long haul.
Right.
You want to make sure that you're not creating competition for resources at crucial stages in their growth cycles.
Okay, so I'm picturing like a really fast-growing leafy green.
Right.
That's maybe only going to be there for a month or two.
Exactly.
And I don't want to plant that right next to something that's going to be a big, heavy feeder.
Exactly. You want to give them both the space they need
Right.
to thrive.
Okay. So this is starting to sound kind of complicated.
Well, it can be a little bit complex, but remember that rule of three,
Right.
by choosing plants that have multiple functions and staggered growth cycles, we can really create a guild that is productive and resilient throughout the entire growing season.
Okay, so are there like any examples of plant combinations that we know work well together?
Oh, absolutely. There are lots of classic plant guilds
Okay.
that have been used for centuries, and new combinations being discovered all the time.
Cool.
One of the most well-known is the Three Sisters Guild.
Oh, yeah.
Corn beans and squash.
Classic.
A classic for a reason.
I love that one.
It's a great example of how plants can really support each other.
Right.
The corn provides a sturdy stalk for the beans to climb the beans, fix nitrogen in the soil benefiting all three plants,
Okay.
and the squash with its large leaves acts as a living mulch, suppressing weeds and keeping the soil moist.
Like a little team
They're a team.
working together.
We're working together.
So besides the Three Sisters, are there other teams that we can put together?
Absolutely. Another classic example is the Apple Tree Guild.
Okay, Apple Tree Guild. So we're starting with an apple tree, obviously.
We're starting with an apple tree.
And then,
You can surround it with a variety of beneficial companions like daffodils, comfrey, and clover.
wait, daffodils?
Daffodils.
I thought those were just pretty flowers.
They are beautiful, but they also have a practical purpose.
Okay.
They actually deter rodents, which can be a problem for apple trees.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And then comfrey acts as our dynamic accumulator,
Right.
bringing up nutrients from the subsoil, and clover fixes nitrogen and acts as a living mulch.
Okay, so we've got pest control.
Yep.
We've got nutrient mining.
We've got it all.
We've got mulch. It's the whole package.
It's the whole package.
All right, so what other dynamic duos or trios can we put together?
Well, let's talk about tomatoes.
Okay, love tomatoes.
A staple in many gardens.
Yes.
But they can be susceptible to certain pests.
Yeah.
A great companion for tomatoes is basil,
Oh, that makes sense.
the Italian connection.
I love that. So they taste good together.
They taste good together.
And they grow well together.
And they grow well together because basil releases aromatic compounds
Okay.
that repel tomato hornworms and whiteflies.
Oh, so it's like natural pest control,
Natural pest control.
right?
And if you add nasturtiums to the mix, you'll attract beneficial insects like ladybugs and lacewings,
Oh, nice.
which feast on those pesky aphids that love to munch on tomato plants.
So we're bringing in the beneficial insects
Exactly. We're creating a whole little ecosystem
to protect our tomatoes.
to protect those tomatoes and to just create a healthier garden overall.
I love that.
Yeah.
So it's not just about what we're getting out of the garden. It's about creating this whole kind of balanced
Right.
system.
It's about the relationships. It's
Yeah.
about the community.
I love that.
Yeah.
So we've talked about choosing the right plants.
Yeah.
We've talked about how they interact in space and time.
We've got our plant matchmaker hats on.
We do.
We're ready to go.
But I think there's still one piece missing.
Okay. What's that?
What are the benefits?
Ah, yes. The benefit.
Like, why are we doing all of this?
Right. Why should we bother with all this planning and matchmaking?
Exactly. So when we come back, we're going to talk about the amazing benefits of plant guilds.
Sounds good. I'm excited to dive into that.
Okay, so we're back, and we've been talking all about these plant guilds and how to build them.
Yes.
But I think that the question on everyone's mind is like, what are the benefits? Like, why should I bother with all this
Exactly.
extra work?
Well, there are so many benefits.
Okay.
I think one of the most significant is enhanced biodiversity.
Okay.
By creating this diverse plant community, you're also inviting a wider range of insects, birds, and other wildlife to your garden.
So it's not just helping the plants.
It's helping everything.
It's helping the whole ecosystem.
Exactly. It's strengthening the ecosystem, making it more resilient to pests, diseases, and environmental stresses.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's like building a natural safety net.
Okay, so more diversity, more resilient.
More resilient. Exactly. And that leads to another major benefit, Improved soil health.
Okay.
So the diverse root systems of a guild, they help to aerate the soil, improving its structure and drainage.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and the nitrogen-fixing plants like those beans in the Three Sisters Guild add essential nutrients,
Right.
enriching the soil for all the plants in the community.
So it's like a self-sustaining system.
It is. It's like a self-sustaining cycle of soil fertility.
So healthy plants lead to healthy soil,
Exactly.
which leads to more healthy plants.
It's a beautiful cycle.
I love that. And less work for me, hopefully.
Exactly. And that brings us to another benefit: reduced maintenance and inputs.
Okay, tell me more.
So when your plants are thriving in a healthy ecosystem, they're more resilient, they require less watering, less fertilizing, and less pest control.
That's what I like to hear.
Yeah, nature's doing the work for you.
So more food, less work. I like where this is going.
It's a win-win.
Okay, so speaking of food, what about yields?
Yes, that's another incredible benefit. You know, when plants are growing in a supportive and balanced ecosystem, they tend to produce higher yields.
So I'm actually getting more food.
You're getting more food. The increased pollination from beneficial insects, the improved soil fertility, and the reduced pest pressure all contribute to a more abundant harvest.
Wow, so it's like this whole system working together to give me more delicious food.
Exactly. It's a beautiful thing.
I love it.
And, you know, this abundance can translate to greater food security, especially for those who rely on their gardens for sustenance.
That's a really important point.
It is.
Yeah.
You know, it's not just about aesthetics or even environmental benefits.
Right.
It's about creating a more productive and sustainable food source.
Yeah, I think we often forget about that part.
We do.
That it's not just about pretty flowers.
Right.
It's about,
It can be about food.
yeah, providing for ourselves and our families.
Absolutely.
This has been such a fascinating deep dive.
I agree.
I've learned so much about plant guilds, and I am definitely inspired to go out and start building some in my own garden.
That's great to hear. I hope you do.
Do you have any final thoughts for our listeners as they embark on their own plant guild adventures?
I would say remember that nature is your greatest teacher.
Okay.
You know, observe the patterns and relationships in the natural world and let those insights guide your design.
So look to nature for inspiration.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to experiment, to make mistakes, and to learn as you go.
It's all part of the process.
It is. Each garden is unique, and the joy of plant guilds lies in discovering what works best in your own space.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Embrace the diversity of plant life and let the beauty and bounty of nature unfold in your backyard.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing all of this amazing information with us.
It's been my pleasure.
And to all of our listeners out there, happy gardening.
Happy gardening, everyone.